Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Leadership Trail Mix. I am Miguel Oliveira, and for the next few minutes, we'll be together looking at one of the main ingredients that compose this art and science we call people leadership. I have a confession to make. I am so in love with the movie Wicked. Actually, I was already in love with the Broadway show, but since the movie came out, I've just been non-stop listening to the soundtrack, and I can't wait for the second part later this year. There are many things in that movie that I'm fascinated about, but one in particular really resonated with me. And I promise, there's no spoiler here, okay? There is a song that starts with a dialogue between the two main characters of the movie, Elphaba, the green witch, and Glenda, the blonde one. As part of this dialogue, Glenda says, "Elphaba, you can have all you ever wanted." And Elphaba's response is, "I know, but I don't want it. No, I can't want it anymore." That sentence, "I can't want it anymore," made me think about a keynote on well-being and environmental awareness that I recently heard, where the speaker posed the following question to us. What did you do once you knew? The context, of course, was very different, but I think the two questions are still so connected. Because Elphaba couldn't want it anymore because now she knew. And I honestly don't think it matters what she knew, even though I think that if you're curious, you should watch the movie. Let me just make sure you know I'm not getting paid by Universal for this, okay? But think with me for a moment. Are we so busy pursuing things we once wanted that we are not realizing that maybe we don't want them? Or because we changed or our priorities changed, we can't or shouldn't want them anymore? Well, it's up to us to reflect. And believe it or not, this is not the topic of today's episode. I know. I'm sorry, I diverted. But I've been reflecting about this for a while, kind of saving it for a specific episode. But today I just felt like I didn't want to. Actually, I couldn't want to wait anymore. Maybe you needed to listen to it. Maybe I needed to listen to it. So now it is out in the world. Now let's go into today's reflection. I actually want to talk about another movie. One that has nothing to do with witches, wizards, or emerald cities. The year was 1993, and maybe you were one of the people who rushed to the movie theater to watch Jurassic Park. I honestly don't even remember the scene, and I have not watched the movie recently, but I know the movie in some way, shape, or form presents a dilemma. Is the question, could we bring dinosaurs back to life? Or should we bring dinosaurs back to life? Today, we'll look at these two questions to talk about empowerment. Empowerment is a topic I've been interested in for a long time. And in supporting leaders and employees, I believe there is a misunderstanding. I've seen it being confused with autonomy, with authority, with freedom. But the empowerment I want to talk about here is about responsibility. Responsibility not for the task, but for the outcomes. What might surprise you is that I will not say today that we as leaders need to empower our people. Yeah, I don't think it's on us to empower them. What I think is on us is to create an environment where they can feel empowered. But feeling empowered is truly a choice, a personal choice. As if empowerment is on the breakfast buffet for you to pick and you can choose to get it or not. So the question for us is, how can we create an environment that allows for empowerment? Well, I could mention a bunch of things, but I wanted to pick one today. Clarity. Brené Brown, I know, shocker, her again. Brené Brown says that clear is kind, and I agree. Being clear, explicit, and setting guardrails is the main ingredient for the type of empowerment I'm talking about here today. Clarity should allow our teams to know the difference between the things that they can and could do and the ones that they should not do. While I believe we as leaders should be available to our people to help them navigate questions, especially when they are at the beginning of their careers, I'm a strong believer that it's less about task-by-task guidance, and it's more about providing a framework that our teams can operate within. As you probably know by now, I don't believe in one-size-fits-all. So you might be listening to me and thinking, that's not what my employees want. And maybe you're right. But in my experience, not only as a leader or as an HR professional, but honestly as a human being and as an employee myself, I've seen that people don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to mess it up. They want to do work that really make them proud. And while we may have the illusion that not having boundaries and a set of non-negotiable principles that will limit someone's actions will give them more freedom, it's actually quite the opposite. It makes me think of my nephew, Mateo, and some of the joyful moments I've had playing with him. It makes me think of how many times he approaches me to ask, "Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? Can I do that?" Almost as if operating from a place of fear and uncertainty. And then I tell him, "Teteo," this is how I call him, "Teteo, you can do anything you want. You just can't go behind that point there because it's dangerous, and you cannot touch that knife because it can hurt you." I just see his face lighting up. And I see him just exploring the world from a place of empowerment. He's just 3 years old, so he still comes back to us a lot to ask for permission. Like most kids, at times he makes mistakes and goes outside of the boundaries. But because he is a small kid, there is always a contingency plan, or a redundancy, which is a principle I discuss on episode 26 of Leadership Trail Mix, and a principle introduced by Brené Brown again. We are not very different from Teteo, right? When he knows the size of his sandbox and the toys he can bring in, he can play more freely, knowing that he's safe. And when we as leaders understand that more than having our voice in people's ears, they need to have our voices in their minds, reminding them of the clear boundaries of what they can and can't, should or shouldn't do based on our team's mission, vision, values, and of course the law of the land, that can be a big unlock for trust and for them to choose to operate from a place of empowerment. Not surprisingly, our call to action today is about frameworks. Can you think about someone on your team that has been struggling to operate from a place of empowerment? Before setting a framework, I recommend that we lead with curiosity. How can I help you on this? What does support from me look like? Maybe there is a different problem. Maybe they need training, mentoring, guidance. So still, clarity may be the antidote. And if they ask for a framework, or even if they don't, I encourage us to propose or probe, would it be easier for you to feel empowered and therefore operate from a place of empowerment if we defined how far you can go and provided some principles for you to operate within? I hope it works, and I would love to hear about your experience taking this approach. You can always send me an email to share your thoughts, feelings, concerns, questions. My email is miguel@leadershiptrailmix.com. And if you know anyone who could benefit from this or other episodes of Leadership Trail Mix, feel free to share and recommend it. Thank you for listening. Take care and talk soon.